Hey everybody, it's Mosh and Mikey, co-host of the Rock and Roll Roundtable on the Moshmen channel on Rumble and YouTube. Here to do another episode of my solo show, Mosh Gosh. And I'm doing my thank you music series to start off this side project, I guess you would call it, of mine, going through my life, recording the music. And we just got out of the 2000s, so 2000s to 2010 on the last episode. So I could go 2010s to 2020 and or just go to current. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go current because I don't think there's enough in the 2010s to really set me apart. But personally, me personally, in 2010 was a pretty big deal in my personal career life. I was in a band. I was in the band Laughing Cattle, and I had been for at that point, what, 16 years, something like that. Well, I got with a childhood friend and we decided to form a side project. It was called Undying Obsession. And we did that as a four piece, sometimes five piece in the early days of Undying Obsession. We did a two-year run with that. And I stayed true to my Laughing Cattle stuff too. And Laughing Cattle had a big 2011 for me when we released the album called Redemption. Now, it was special for me. Not only was it the last album that I fully participated in for Laughing Cattle, but it was also a concept album that I was given the luxury of writing. So I always wanted to write a concept album. That's what I did. Now, and at that time, Laughing Cattle and UO, I call them UO for short, we're doing a lot of shows. We were doing quite a bit of shows around. So outside influence music wasn't as big. I mean, Undying Obsession being more of a sludge rock type kind of band. So I did get into more of Clutch and Down and stuff like that. And eventually hit on my, in 2010 also was when I hit on the big one was Kingdom of Sorrow. Now, if you don't know who Kingdom of Sorrow is, you need to go find that, stream it, check it out. It is Jamie Jasta from Hate Breed combined with Kirk Winstein from Crowbar, Down, all that. And they had a couple other members. One was from the band Phantoms, and one was from Toxic Holocaust on the first album. Now, the second album was just amazing. God's Law in the Devil's Land. Man, just, but so much about the first Kingdom of Sorrow and the second. Those are the only two albums they had. But they hit me a different way. Those were like I had talked about every so often something grabs your attention. Every 4 or 5 years I've been lucky enough to where something would just wake me up because I'm losing faith in music a little bit here, it's the same old kind of stuff. Kingdom of Sorrow did that for me. And not only that, I got to see them on the second album's tour, meet them. I got to meet and shake their hands and get stuff signed. Jamie and Kirk, anyway. And it was just, they were a phenomenal band for those two albums. I wish they would have done a lot more. But both their prospective bands are still going strong with Crowbar and Hate Breed. So I get it that it was just a one, couple album off thing for them. But boy, it was a lot of fun. Absolutely amazing live. Both the albums kick ass. I think you just have to check that out for yourself. Kingdom of Sorrow. And self-titled first album and God's Law in the Devil's Land. Yeah, fucking badass. Now, as I ventured through, the UO experiment kind of went away in 2012, and I'm still doing my own band, kind of thing. But in 2014, I ran into a very interesting band. It's called Royal Blood, and they had an album come out, and I'd seen the video for them, and it was just two guys. And now anymore, I mean, Local H back in the day did it. And you have some other notable bands that do it now. It's like Crash Karma does it. The White Stripes did it. I mean, there's more of it going on now. Robot Monster does it today, um, just instrumentally, but they do. So it's not as incredibly unique anymore, but Royal Blood was because of the type of music they played. And I think it was the first time I'd ever seen a guy with a bass rig playing bass guitar, running his stuff through a guitar amp. And that's kind of stuff that catches my attention. It's weird stuff. Like there's a band out now, and I couldn't tell you. It really pisses me off that I didn't remember the name of these guys. But there's a band out right now in current day that has two bass players and a drummer and the singer. Very unique, but different sounding. But Royal Blood was one of those guys that caught my attention, and I was like, "Whoa, this is different. It's fun." Wasn't super heavy or nothing, but it fit right in. It was definitely not Kingdom of Sorrow kind of, you know, bringing the heat, but it was still a lot of fun. And I didn't really check any of their albums out after the first one, but that first album was killer. So check out Royal Blood when you get a chance. But I'm still in the unique position at this point where I'm working second shift at the time, and I'm in the band, and I'm kind of limited on what I can listen to and here and there, and I listened to what I could. Still back in my 80s, listening to the hair metal. I'm still back at even 90s grunge, Weezer, of course. Never quit with listening to the Blue Album. New metal was still in the background, but not as prominent for me as it is for, say, some people that absolutely love the new metal genre. Emo was still there. Hardcore was creeping in more. Sludge was creeping in more. I was listening to a lot of Clutch during the 2010 era. But I was like, okay, after Royal Blood, I was like, oh, I'm still looking for something. A couple years later, I'm like, I am looking for something to just totally change my view on music. Because, as unique as some of these bands are, you're waiting for one that captivates you so much that you become an overblown fan of. Kind of it was been hard to do. Kingdom of Sorrow was the first jarring one since the Blue album, Weezer. So I went like 6 years and I heard Kingdom of Sorrow, like, oh man. Royal Blood was different, interesting, but it wasn't like catch my attention and I'm going to be a fan for life. And I never really followed them after the first album. That might be a mistake of mine. I mean, really, very, very well could be. But then the ultimate happened. I was driving home one day, listening to I had XM radio, listening to Liquid Metal, and this band came on with this song. This girl was singing so nice and politely, and it kicks into this part, and you hear this like dude jumps in there and just like demon guttural vocals. I'm like, whoa, what is this? That's a change of pace that I hadn't heard before. So I looked it up on the screen. I seen on the screen who it was, and I go home. I said, well, I'm gonna see if they have any music video. And I wish I would have done a react video because I go home and I'm watching this nice little lounge looking setting they have on this video, and the girl's beautiful, smoking hot girl, short black hair at the time, and the little nose ring, and just the gauges and wife beater shirt on, gorgeous girl. And I'm like, oh wow, this girl's singing, and she's so pretty sounding. And I'm like, okay, the other two guys are like sitting down, relaxed. You got the drummer back there, and the bass player and the guitar player, and they're all kind of just chilled. They're who's gonna be which one of these guys is the guy singer? And it gets to the point where the guttural vocals come in, and it's like, what? and it was the beautiful girl that switched from nice and polite to demon of hell instantaneously, and then went back. And I watched it a few times, like, this can't be exactly what happens. This has to be some kind of faux pas. The guy singer's just not on the video singing. And of course, I'm talking about Ginger at this point. And I showed my wife, I showed other people at work. I was like, check this out. What do you think of that? And after I believed that she was the one singing the whole time, I was like, oh, I got to get this out. And the song was Pisces, which was their first big hit, I think, here in America. So I go out and get the King of Everything out. And there it was. There it was. That was what I needed to restore my faith in music and in humanity to an extent, because I could not believe how good that album was. And it wasn't my normal listening play. I mean, it was heavier. It was like groove metal to an extreme. But the vocals were better than, say, a Lamb of God. Even though Lamb of God's got some, they got some killer riffs. And I'm not talking saying Randy's a bad singer, but he can't sing the clean vocals like Tatiana can. So I go back and find out that they had albums before that. And I go back and get, Inhale, Don't Breathe. I went back and got Cloud Factory, and I was like, it just entranced, just enthralled with this. Not just her, but she was beautiful, and the way she sang, and all that. I got to go to a small bar that is no longer there, and unfortunately, it's always going to be known as the bar where Dimebag Darrell got killed in Columbus, Ohio, called the Alrosa Villa. And I got to see Ginger open up for Devil Driver for the first time that I saw them. And I was just, that was it. That restored everything, and they automatically shot to the top of my list as far as bands, current bands at that time. And Tatiana was just the front person I had wanted to see forever. That she was it. And when I met them, it was so good because they were nicest people, the nicest people. And being from the Ukraine, they spoke pretty good English. The ones that spoke, I don't think Roman, who's the guitar player, or Vlad, the drummer, sing as. And I don't think they're as good at English as, say, Eugene, the bass player, or Tatiana is. But just being able to wait around the merch tent, or the not the tent, but the merch table. And they had a Ukrainian girl working the merch table, and I was just over there standing by that and saying, are they gonna by chance come out? And she kind of looked at me and she said, hold on a minute. And she went back there and told me to come off to the side over there. There was like three or four of us waiting, me and my wife and a couple other people. And they go off to the side of this in this little tiny thing and this little side spot where they put equipment and stuff. And there all four of them were. And I got my picture taken, and I was so stupid looking on my picture. I mean, I had this shit-eating grin. I just couldn't quit smiling. I was like, I kept telling them, "You're the best band in the planet right now." Just going ballistic over this band. And I will say, their new album comes out tomorrow. This is Thursday the 6th. Their new album comes out on the 7th of February, but since 2016 when I discovered them, it's been 9 years of complete bliss for me. It's just every album they put out is fantastic. Some of the heaviest shit I've ever listened to, but then she mixes it beautifully with her clean vocals. And I will say, without a doubt, right now, that Ginger is my favorite band on the planet, and they have been for the last 9 years. well, eight and a half, whatever. I discovered them in 2016. I heard them for the first time. So ever since then, it's been I'm a gingerite. I'm a ginger fanatic. I love ginger. Uh, anyway, and I went and seen them again, and I had the meet and greet, and got to see them and meet them again, and it was like I just like a kid in a candy store, pig and shit, whatever you want to call it. I was ecstatic both times. I don't think that any in my life, I don't know that I needed it that bad when it hit, or that I've enjoyed it as much as I have with Ginger. And I've went into their world more with the heavier bands. And it's like people think I'm crazy because, I used to be a hair metal guy and in the Kiss Army and this and that. And most people that are my age and they grow up with that music aren't into, they don't understand the guttural vocals. They don't understand the slamming and destruction and the breakdowns and all that good shit that I love. But I absolutely love it. Now, I was enthralled with Ginger, but there was another band that was really caught my attention with some albums in the 2010s, and that was Beartooth. I really liked a lot of Beartooth, the Aggressive album, uh, Disease, that album, and just some of the songs like Beaten in Lips, and especially I gotta say probably The Lines is my favorite. I just love that song. But they had that album, the Hated album was or the Aggressive album was fucking killer, and they had all kinds of good. You just have to check out Beartooth. They had a lot of good shit. And I took all the kids, my two kids and my three kids, well, my stepdaughter. So my oldest son and my daughter and my stepdaughter and me and my wife, we go to Columbus to one of those bars. I don't know, Kemba Live or whatever it's called now. It was called something else back then, and we got to see them too. And they put on a hell of a show. And I was in the Beartooth camp for a while. I mean, they were up there rivaling Ginger, but never quite getting there or surpassing them, of course. And in that show, I did. They had an opening bands, and one of them was Knocked Loose. So that's where I was introduced to Knock Loose, who's got some of the best breakdowns. They just got some of the best breakdowns ever. And with that, I want to start to get to the 2020 era. But with that, I found out these bands like Lorna Shore with these incredibly demonic sounding breakdowns. But I mean, I also didn't really care for some of the other bands like the Motionless in Whites or the Falling in Reverse. And I mean, they're okay, but they didn't gravitate. Lorna Shore was almost too much. It's like too much of the demon stuff, but it's still killer. But Ginger was still top of the mountain as we went into 2020s. Then I remembered a band back in the day called I Wrestled a Bear Once. And they were, just raw, rah, 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 like all the time barking, guttural vocals out the ass. But there was the start of there was a girl that was in the band first, and then there was a girl that replaced her, and her name was Courtney LaPlante. Now I saw this girl named Courtney LaPlante in an Acacia Strain video the first time, and I thought, wow, man, she's gorgeous. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't remember her from I Wrestled a Bear Once because I got her and the original singer mixed up. And I was like, that's a big transformation, but it wasn't the same girl. So, but after I seen it, and the Acacia Strain, by the way, is very good. I love the Acacia Strain, but I'm not like a follower of them. But when I see a video come on of them, I stop and pay attention. A lot of people like Acacia Strain. Black Dahlia Murder was also one that a lot of people were watching, paying attention to. Dillinger Escape Plan, bands like that, the heavier stuff that I I liked, but I didn't follow any of those because I didn't have the drive in it like I did the Ginger when the Ginger hit. But then when it come around, Spirit Box come out, and that was with Courtney LaPlante. That was good stuff. And she's even maybe a little clean vocals on more songs than Tatiana is. But when she does her screaming, it's not as low as Tatiana, but it makes you move. And Courtney knows how to work a stage. I mean, Tatiana does too. Don't get me wrong. Courtney knows how to work a stage, and she's pretty easy to look at. But that's not what music's about. I get it, but it just helps. But Courtney's almost flawless vocally, and that's where I really got into the women-led metal bands. I started seeing bands like those two, and then Infected Rain I saw with Lena Scissorhands, another Ukrainian metal band, and I'm like, what is all up with all these? Well, I like these bands better than most of the guy bands now. Arch Enemy, when I got to see, her with the Nightwish, and then symphonic metal, Floor Jansen for God's sakes, Epica with Simone Simons. It's like holy shit, and it changed my perception of women vocalists in metal because I really never gave it much attention. And I went after I did discovered all this stuff. I went back and listened to bands like Walls of Jericho. It's like holy moly, I'd missed a lot of stuff. I had really missed quite a bit of stuff. And as we climb into current, I left. Well, I want to go back a little bit, right towards the end of the 2010s. I had decided to move on from my duties in Laughing Cattle. I just was listening to the heavier music, and I'm not gonna say they weren't heavy. We weren't heavy at all, but they didn't want to go in the same quite direction. And when I went into the second, I did a second incantation, I guess, of Undying Obsession, switched the name to The Undying Obsession, which, just made it a little different. And my bass player from the original Undying Obsession switched to guitar. My youngest daughter was helping me out and amazingly and played the drums and killed it. And we met a buddy. I met a buddy at work when I was working that played the bass, and we got him to join in. And we did two EPs together, and those are called the Mission Volume One and the Mission Volume Two. If you're on Spotify or any of the music sites, it's still up. The Undying Obsession. Yes, check those out as well as Laughing Cattle Redemption. All albums I've led my vocals to and did a lot of the songwriting, most of the songwriting. I think there was a couple songs I had some help and here and there, and I'm not, yeah, but they're good albums for local bands. They're really good albums. But yeah, so after we had the mighty, virus that shall not be named in 2020, uh, the Undying Obsession fell apart also. And we did our last show in July of 2021. That was my last full blown show. I did play with Laughing Cattle at my retirement party that I had that my wife threw for me. I did do a set with them. Unexpected though, and it's like I didn't practice. I didn't. I had to even have a cheat sheet for the words because I hadn't sang those songs in at that time 5 years. And there's still times. A couple times I went out to where they practice and just to have somebody singing vocals on the old stuff, and it's fun. But yeah, it's like I enjoyed my time with both bands. Laughing Cattle was 24 years for me. The Undying Obsession was a total of 5 years, about a 4.5 years between the two of them. I put out a bunch of stuff, albums with Laughing Cattle and the two EPs with the Undying Obsession. Proud of all of them. I mean, I had a great time doing them. I met a lot of good people. They were all my friends in these bands, and I can't feel any remorse or sadness about any of it. Now, I wish I could still do it? Yeah, sure. But I don't know. I mean, I've lost a step vocally, and I'm pretty hard to work with sometimes because I really try to control the situations I'm in, and it's just the way it is. And I mean, hopefully someday I can do a project. I have done a project with a pretty on that note, I have in the last year or two done a project with a pretty talented composer guy, and he just writes these songs and plays all the instruments and doesn't like to sing on all the songs. So I did a couple songs for him. And he's on YouTube. He spells it a little funny, but it's called Tragic Backstory, and it's Trajik and then Backstorie. I think is how he spells it. He just trying to get a little different with it. And I do a couple songs for him. Das Vidanya is one that I did, and oh man, I just forgot it, but it's on there. There's two songs I sing on. Das Vidanya is the one I know I did first, and then oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. I just had it in my head, but there's another song that I get credit. I got credit vocally for. So yeah, definitely check that out too. He's a pretty talented guy. Got some great compositions, and he just released a new song I think called Rockstar. He did the vocals himself on that one, and so yeah, check it out on there. But coming into the this year and last year, I should say, in 2022, 23, 24, I started really checking out. I was on TikTok and I was checking out some bands that I wouldn't have probably got to know anyway. And there's a couple of them that I kind of glanced over, like Sleep Token. They're very cool and reminiscent of Ghost, who I like. But they're different in a way that's like R&B ish. It's kind of different. They're very talented guys, but I'm not like hooked on them. But I'll definitely listen to them at times. Kuba Kuba Khan Kuba Khan, whatever they call that, Texas. They got some killer songs, like Ant Pile too. I mean, that's it. Stuff like that. They're just pretty brutal. Knocked Loose has some good stuff. The singer gets annoying to some people, and yeah, it kind of grates on you a little bit, but the music's phenomenal. But as I said, I was leaning more towards the female-led metal band. So I'm gonna leave with the two I think that are trending up right now. I mean, that album coming out for Ginger tomorrow is gonna set them apart again, I'm sure, because all the singles have been fucking fantastic. And Spirit Box, they're really climbing. Courtney LaPlante and them guys are just awesome. Great, just absolutely amazing. And my favorite metal album of 2024 was actually Kitty's new album. And so Kitty, get the album Fire. Yeah. Kitty's back with a vengeance. That was a very, very good album. So that was my metal album of the year last year. So yeah, it's check that out too. And hopefully I get to see Kitty. I'd like to see him on tour with Ginger and Spirit Box. Oh, that'd be euphoria, man. It would be euphoria. But you could throw in the next two bands and I'd be happy too. Actually, there's four I'm listening to, but two really heavier. But the two I'm kind of listening to on occasion is Brat, Brat. Their frontman Liz Fetish, amazing. I gotta say, Delta Hate is another one that I just thought of. They're female led, brutal. Yeah, definitely check out Delta Hate. but monochromatic black. Wow. Technical, a little more technical death metalish than I'm used to. But Tanya Elizabeth, oh my goodness. Again, another gorgeous girl, but she can rip it. She and it's the gorgeous is one thing, but she can rip it. All these girls are good looking. That's the sad thing. They're all good looking girls too, and that even makes it better because you get to look and hear, right? But those three are on my up and coming list. But the two I think that are surging is Not Enough Space is one. They had the song called Primitive that got labeled Moancore because in the middle of it, there's a part where they go, ah, and, and it's like, it fits perfect. It's a fucking hilarious part. I mean, but they've had Don't Be Scared. They just released a new one called The Solace and Silence. It's like, oh my, these girls and guys, because you know there's two girl singers in this one, which is different. Livy, I think it's Liv and Lizzie. I think is their names. One sings more of the clean, one does more of the growling and the blah. They dance around on stage. They're beautiful young girls. It's like they're into it. Not enough space. Yeah, they're from Central Florida out of there. So they're on the up and coming, definitely up and coming. And probably the biggest find from TikTok for me in the past year or so, besides not enough space, was Deadlands. Yeah. Casey Carlson, you got it going on, girl. She can sing. She's a beautiful young girl. I mean, she's young, 22, 23, but she can belt it out. Does a lot of covers of other stuff on her TikToks and YouTube reels and stuff like that. Seems very down to earth, uh, just insanely good looking and talented. Got the whole package. The band is just starting to get more traction. So I think Deadlands and Not Enough Space could be in your living rooms very soon. I think they have the makings, but don't forget about the other ones. Brat, you know, Monochromatic Black, of course, Delta Hate, Spirit Box is raging right now. They're huge right now. And Ginger, the best band on the fucking planet. Don't forget them. New album called Duel, out February 7th, which will be tomorrow as I'm taping this, but might be a week past when you actually watch this if you. So yeah, that's my career, my musical journey from the 70s all the way through to today. And I've really had a good time just coming down, remembering some of this stuff and getting to talk about bands that I find fascinating, that I have inspired me and that I love. And you can't take it for granted day to day, but you hear music that changes your life. And you get a band like I did with Weezer's Blue Album or Ginger the first time I heard them, or Kiss back in the 70s, or Not Enough Space in Deadlands that I hear today, Spirit Box, you know, my own bands. Laughing Cattle for many years have the Redemption albums on YouTube and Spotify and all that good stuff. The Undying Obsession, Mission Volume 1 and 2, both on Spotify, wherever else you get that stuff, YouTube Music, whatever. So it's been fun. It's been a real good time in my life of music. Will I ever be in another band or not? Oh, tragic backstory too. I did those two songs. And I can't for the life of me think of a second song. It's going to drive me nuts. Oh, yeah. But anyway, tragic backstory got to be on my list too because I did a couple songs for them. But will I ever get back into it? I don't know. If the right opportunity came and I thought I could handle it, I would definitely try again because I love the creation part of music. I love the performing part of music. I love everything about music. That's why I'm down here talking to you by myself on a side project of from the Rock and Roll Roundtable. just to get my point across. And I talk a little. I'll be talking from now on. I'll probably just be talking about random things. Like I had said at the first couple episodes, I talked about having little segments like "What are we doing?" where I just hear stuff that's so stupid I can't fathom it, or I got guilty pleasures in there too. Bands that you might not think a guy like me would like, and that I actually deeply enjoy, that are not as heavy and not even sometimes not even rock or metal. It's just if I like them, I like them, and I'll talk about that kind of stuff. But hey, it's moshman24 at Gmail. If you have any comments, con- constructive criticism, don't like the show, whatever you want to put, I am good with that. I'd like some feedback. I enjoy doing the show. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep it up on a weekly basis. But if not, a couple times a month. And don't forget about the Rock and Roll Roundtable on the same Moshmen channel. We have one episode every Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the latest one. I think sometimes Rumble's earlier, sometimes it's the same time. It doesn't matter. Just check it out, like and subscribe. You never know when there might be an episode that catches your eye that you say, "Hey, I'd like to hear about that subject," and have wing it out. We have a lot of different subjects. We have guests on at times. We do live streams. So definitely check out the Moshman channel rock and roll roundtable episodes. Because that's what me and Skeeter do. We do them together. And always keep turning back in from Mosh Bagosh. I deeply appreciate my chance just to talk about what I love and what I enjoy. So just remember the old quote, live, laugh, love, and listen to music every day. My name's Mosh and Mikey. This is Mosh Bagosh. Until next time, peace out, my friends.